Hello, everybody, and welcome to Frank Conversations. I'm Frank Clark, your host, and I'm here with Jonathan Tripp, host of Blab Nation. Say hello, Jonathan.
Hey, it's good to see everybody. Thanks for having me, Frank. I'm really glad to be here.
Thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you and Blab Nation. I've been a fan just about since I got here on Blab, so I'm delighted to have a more of a one-on-one conversation with you here today.
Yeah, this is great. I'm looking forward to it. I mean, it's a fantastic, for me, it's an afternoon. I know everybody's around the world, but still, I love these times.
So let me do what I usually do is let me give people a sense of who you are. Why don't you introduce yourself and, what you're doing with Blab Nation as a starting point?
Well, my name is Jonathan Tripp, and a lot of people ask me what I do, and it's one of those evolving things here because I'll be honest with you, Frank. I used to be just like a digital marketer who used Periscope, right? And
right.
I would help other marketers. I would teach them, make some tricks and some tips and stuff like that. And what ended up happening out of that, I ended up starting a show that's right now we're calling it, we use the hashtag Blab Nation just to kind of bring together our community. And so now I've become a broadcaster, which is slightly different than a marketer. We'll just be straight out honest with you. Actually, they're not the same thing. Yeah, you can be both, but they're not the same thing. And and being a broadcaster just has really actually opening that part of my life up and being consistent with that has really caused me to be a better marketer in a good sense. It's caused me to strip away a lot of the extras in what I do. And so basically, if I was to really answer, what are you? I'm a broadcaster. I'm a marketer. I'm a coffee lover, so all those things, that's what I do.
Well, I think it's an important distinction. And again, I like to unpack some of these things when I hear them, because when you say you used to be just a digital marketer, now you're a broadcaster, it's not just a small shift. It's actually a monumental shift because it's a shift in your identity. And that shift in your identity changes, when you're changing who you are, it changes what you do and how you do it. So changing your identity from digital marketer to broadcaster is a monumental shift. So when you were making that change and deciding to adopt that new identity of, okay, what I really am is I'm a broadcaster, how did that change what you were doing and how you were going about, your business and building Blab Nation?
The real difference came down to this, where I realized that the emphasis wasn't just to talk to more people. I mean, it wasn't just to market to more people, market to marketers, essentially. It was really to actually talk to more people and have conversations with more people. And it's not just about marketing or social media. As a matter of fact, I mean, we within our community, I mean, we do kind of keep to some major topics just so that it shows a consistency and a reliability. As far as the kind of conversation you'll get there. And so I always kind of centered it around, business, marketing, and social media. And not because we don't talk about other stuff, but when we bring it all to around those type of topics, I mean, because believe me, you can talk all day, and people
right.
do, about those things. And it's never boring, and it's never the same thing again and again. But the fundamental shift that really happened from just being a marketer to being a broadcaster, it actually caused me and forced me to get out of the pitch mindset, even when it's not a hard sell, because I hate hard sells. I don't know if you know that. I hate hard sells.
You say that all the time on your show.
And I think more people need to hear it and really need to believe it. But I think,
and I think most people hate hard sells as well. So, which is why it resonates so much with your audience, is that nobody likes a hard sell.
Right, exactly. And I think when particularly with using social media, which I still am a huge advocate of. Don't get me wrong. It's not like I think marketing is ridiculous or don't ever do it. I think really the conversation needs to come down to how are you going to do it? And for me, what I'm discovering for me personally is that I'm a better broadcaster. I'm a better broadcaster now, partly because of my background, because of the experience, but because I'm not trying to sell. I spend more of my time trying to share and promote other people. And it's taken a little bit. And I don't want to give people this impression that, last week I decided to promote other people. This has been months. This has been weeks. And, and there, some days are wicked easy. Today's interview on our show, awesome, easy. Matt's so easy to talk to, talking about his GoFundMe and his startup launch and, talking about the blue ocean strategy and all these kind of things. Guys, I don't know how to develop an app. I've never done a GoFundMe personally. Let's see what else. I don't know I've never used blue ocean strategy, but we had a great conversation. And
right.
That's what's taken time to develop, both the skill to have it, but also a place where I can have Matt on the show. And we can have a good conversation and people still show up because, I would say, 4 or 5 months ago, if I just had Matt on a show, maybe 5 people, maybe 2 people. I've had those. And, now months later, and, we have a pretty consistent showing.
Now you've got, and Matt was saying this, you've got a steady, maybe 30 to 40 people on your show every day. And you've had shows that have blown up and you've hit,
right.
maybe 100 or more. You would know the stats better than I, but it is that consistency combined with that new identity that I think are making a difference, because you're showing up every day and you're showing up in this new identity,
right,
of being a broadcaster. So
and I love to be there.
Yeah, people are already accustomed to watching broadcasters because we've all been doing it since,
right.
pretty much since we were born. Everybody's been who's alive today has probably been born. In the age of television, let's just say.
Right. I was just like, I remember TV, and we were kind of joking about this the other day, where it was the big clunk, clunk, clunk numbers.
I heard you talking about that.
Right?
Flyers, because the channel thing, busted off, and the only way to change the channel is you had to get the flyers.
Right. And the pliers were always on top of the great big huge TV cabinet, right? I know these things.
And the TV cabinet was a piece of furniture. It wasn't just like, the screen. They had the ones that had the integrated stereo.
And now we've got screens that are like this thick. The whole TV apparatus, everything, speakers, everything is just all involved.
It used to be moving a TV was like moving a piano,
And you just didn't do it, right? You just sold the house with a TV.
Exactly.
But now we're in a digital age, and now we kind of joke about it, right? Where, a lot of people, like I have, this is not a plug or anything, but, I have an Android device. I have a Samsung Note 4. And people they look at my phone, they're like, oh my word, that thing is so huge.
Right.
And I look at them and go, I know. It's awesome. Not because it's big. And that's where people think of, like, it's not because it's bigger. No, what it is, what I love about it is that it lets me, it's got the computing power to do all the things that I'm looking for. Because I am on Snapchat. I do Blab. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. I manage a very, very active Facebook group. It's hard to keep up with them, and so, all of these things, like I utilize my phone all the time. Oh, Instagram. I didn't even talk about Instagram. I'm on it all the time. And I needed something that was going to allow me to be able to literally, it's my mobile computing. And for the most part, I can do about 70%.
Your cell phone has got more computing power than all of the computers that were used to send men to the moon back in 1969.
Which is a little scary.
It is scary.
So maybe I need to be going to the moon. I do a
launch your own rocket. So let me ask you, let's go back a little bit. How did you come to be in the digital marketing space to begin with? I like to ask people, what was like your first entrepreneurial experience or your first business experience that said, you know what, that's where I want to go, or that's the direction I want to go in?
Well, it's
back
kind of
like a kid even.
Right. Not as a kid, I'll say like this. I'm of the age where I've literally seen where there was no social media to where there is social media. I have that perspective. There are people out there that they've never known a world without Facebook, or never known a world without Twitter, or
like
those kinds of things. but to answer that, like my one of my first real experiences, it was and I'm not going to include like website stuff because I mean that just goes way back. Now it goes way back. We're talking. Internet's old, starting to get there. We're at least 25 years old now.
Yeah, I mean, I remember back in the days of CompuServe and dialing up with a modem, and I remember being a tech and helping people who didn't have touch tone phone service yet. They had the old pulse tone, which meant you dial, and they had modems that would work with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that was the way that people did computing. And so I would say this, right? My experience with internet stuff started probably going on about 10 years ago. And, just exploring what on how to advertise and how to talk about a website. Along came Facebook, along came Twitter. And one of the best things I ever heard, and I totally don't agree with it now, but my inexperience was this way. They said, Twitter, it's where everybody talks and nobody listens. And I thought that was and I was like, oh, that's a really, okay, good. I thought that was a really accurate description of that platform. And then I started going to some network events, and I realized that most of the people in the event didn't want to talk to me, but there were a select few, and that we have really good conversations and things like this. And the reason why I bring it up is because now fast forward 10 years, now I'm in this digital marketing area, this world, and I got into it because I had to. Because I knew that in order to really grow a business well in this area, I think that you need to have some type of an internet, particularly social media, and leveraging the power of social media, which is where people talk. And if you don't, I think you're only stifling your growth, Absolutely. Only stifling your ability to communicate. Can you do it? Yes, there are businesses out there that are doing great that don't have any social media or anything like that. Okay. So but that's my perspective. Now, the reason why I tell you that other story is to say this. Now, I realize that Twitter is not a place where everybody talks and nobody listens. It's the fact that I need to find the people that I want to listen to. And believe me, I do listen to. I get some of my best engagement outside of this platform on Twitter. Hands down. No questions asked. Not even close. Facebook, don't even talk to me about Facebook if you want to try to connect. I mean, that's like a personal level. You want to know about my kids and where I was and stuff like that? You're my friend. Facebook is my place. You want to talk to me about business and stuff like that? Twitter or my phone call. You're not getting my phone call unless I'm connected with you somehow. And Twitter's just the easiest way. But I have great conversations on Twitter. Yeah, that's just my 2 cents.
I've only been using Twitter actively, I'll say. I've been using Twitter for several years now. But I just never got it before. And I've only really been actively using Twitter for about 3.5 months. And I'm, I won't even say I get it or, I understand why it's important and how it's important and how to use it well. I'm not great at it. I'm learning. And watching people like Joel Comm and reading Joel's book and Twitter Power. But, I can see the power of it anyway. I'm not great at it. I'm getting better at it, and I'm using it way more than I did. In the last 3.5 months, I'm using it way more than I did in the last 3.5 years. And I've had accounts. I think I've got 4 Twitter accounts, but not actively even logging onto them. So it's hard to get a lot out of it if you're not using it. Or, understand.
Well, this is the question becomes is that then was it relevant then? Like I was just looking at my Twitter account and like it says, I've been on Twitter since June of 2009. Okay, so why is that important? Like I've had an email address too, but that doesn't. It's a tool that maybe you don't use, and like you were saying. But my question is because why is it relevant then? Snapchat's years old. But it's really, to me, it's only become relevant, I want to say, in the last, 2 months.
Yeah, and it's basically your use and discussion of Snapchat that's gotten me even interested in I told you this several times. I had Snapchat on my phone because I saw it had 5 million downloads. And my niece, who's like 13 years old, said, "You've got Snapchat?" I said, well, sort of. I said, I've got the app, but I don't have an account. I've never used it. I don't know how to set it up. She's like, oh, I'll set it up for you, Uncle Frank. So she set it up, and then she was my only friend for about 6 months or a year. Mm-hmm. And then every once in a while, I would take a picture of my son or my family and send it to her because she was my only follower.
Right. And this is what it really comes down to. It's that it's a tool that you could use and you don't have to. And another one, we'll talk about, is Anchor.fm. Okay. It's basically, I'm just going to say like this, it's voicemail for social media. I mean, could I use it? Yes. Yeah, I could. I really could. I probably do pretty good on it. It's like an announcement sort of thing. And I've thought about it, but honestly, like my concern is that I'm going to get on it and it's just another thing to do.
Exactly.
I don't need another thing to do. If I was to add it, that means I'd have to take something else away. And I don't want to do that right now.
Right.
So I'm saying no to Anchor.
Yeah. Yeah. Because there's only so much that you can do. And it's getting more and more crowded every day. I mean, I've been on this platform. So what was it? August was when I heard about Periscope for the first time, and I kind of dismissed it. September, I heard about Blab for the first time, and I somewhat dismissed it, but looked at it. And then September, I saw the friend who introduced me to Blab, Tony Schmidt, Grateful Tony. I think you know her. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, I'm going to start checking it out, and started going on Blab. And about October, I started really, checking it out in earnest, right?
Right.
So now I get it, but because of being here on Blab, I've become aware of so many so many other things that I wasn't aware of or wasn't using, like Snapchat and Instagram, which have been around for a little while, Periscope, which has been around for a little while, but all the new ones like Mevi and Facebook Live and Go Live With and Radio FM that are like new and emerging and coming out. And I know that that's not the end. I mean, you were talking with Matt that, he was saying there's no need for any other social networks, but I guarantee you there's going to be probably hundreds, dozens, if not hundreds or thousands more, because everybody's going to keep trying to get in the game. Okay, yeah, Facebook is 1.5 billion users, LinkedIn, Twitter kind of take up the rest of the space, but yet here we are with Radio FM and Blab and Periscope and more on the way, like every day. So the question is what's relevant? What's relevant? And you were kind of saying in the broader context of my conversation this morning, when I said that is this, that it's I don't see people inventing social media again. I don't see that all of a sudden Facebook is going to be, it's not Facebook goes away and something else comes in, as in that Facebook, to me, in many ways, made social media big. Right.
It pushed the boundaries so that when Twitters come along, so that Snapchats come along, so that Blabs come along, so that Periscope comes along, we already had some expectation of social media there. I mean, if Facebook wasn't there, I really think that something else would have come along. I think something else would have done the job. Maybe not quite as well or differently. It would have shaped social media differently. But my main point is that at this point, I don't see that we're going to be inventing social media again. We're not going to be doing another, it's like Web 2.0 or 4.0 or whatever it is. It's just we're going to refine what we have. And that's one of the reasons why I love this platform, Blab, that we're doing this live on. Why I think that this is a great platform, because it introduces so many other technologies into it, and it links. And I think they're just getting better. They've fixed so many problems lately. I'm super excited about it. This is why I decided to make the majority of my home. I spend a good chunk of my time on Blab just for that reason.
Yeah, and they're very, very responsive and interactive with the Blab user community. Mm-hmm. So I saw Sean on a chat or a town hall just whatever it was 2 weeks ago. I think I watched the replay on that, and he did like another like Q&A, like a live Q&A last week.
Right.
And he was asking, what about mentions? Like, what do people think about mentions? Are you using it? Do you like it? And everybody was saying, don't use it. Don't know what it is. Don't like it. What is mentions? So a week later, it's gone. So if you look up where it says live chat, there used to be a box that says mentions. That's gone because he got the feedback he was looking for. People said they don't like it. They're not using it. He says, okay, let's get rid of it.
Yeah. What if it was there? Like, I would check on it, but I use it as a host. But other than that, there's really no use for it. I mean, and we can go on and on about like, the different aspects of it. But I think the point is that where we're at with not with Snapchat, but with social media, is that it's coming into an age of what am I going to use and how am I going to use it? And if it doesn't fit the bill very quickly, if not almost immediately, I'm not going to use it. Like Anchor, I'm not going to use it. Honestly, I'm probably not going to, because if they made it as like a desktop where I could log in and do it, otherwise I'm not buying an iPhone in order to use the app. It's not that important. Trust me.
Right. And I want to touch on a point you just brought up, which is, there's not going to be, some big revolution in social media. I think what we have is what we got, but it's just going to continue to get better and better. I think, I agree with you in that it's going to get better. And I also think that people are going to try and brand whatever innovation they do to make it a little bit better as a revolution. So one perfect, so you could say in a sense, Blab is a revolutionary technology. Really, it's an evolution of Facebook and video chat and the phone, right? So it's an iterative, improvement over communications technology. I mean, ever since, going back to cave paintings, people have wanted to like transmit their stories, right? Sitting around the fire or whatever. Right. And over the years, we went first from like carrier pigeons, right, in the 17 or 1800s or whatever, to later the telegraph, right, and telegrams, to the in the mails, right, and delivering mail by horseback, etc. Right,
as opposed to right, exactly.
To now where everybody's got instant communication on telephone, and 120 years, 130 years, whatever it was, that didn't even exist. Now it's like taken for granted, right? So it's just been evolving. It's communication and transmission and reception of ideas, and that's all we're seeing with radio, television, the internet. Going back to the printing press, really, with books or whatever. Right. So what I see is it will continue to get better, and those improvements will be seen as monumental improvements. But we're trying, and what I think Blab comes closest to doing is replicating the experience of being in a room with you. And having a conversation, but having people come in and out of the room. So that's, you're out in public, you're in a Starbucks, let's say, and you and I are having a conversation, and then, Dawn walks in and hears us talking and says, "Hey guys, how are you?" And, we start a conversation with her, she's listening, or she's passing us notes or whatever. So I think we're going to see innovations like this that make the social experience more social, more interactive, and more real, like three-dimensional transmissions. Everybody wants like the Star Wars experience, right? Where the first one where Princess Leia was in R2-D2 and transmitted, as a hologram. And then later ones they had, the whatever that was, the Imperial Congress or whatever, all the senators in, and some people are participating by hologram.
I mean, that's essentially what we have.
Yeah.
We just don't have it three-dimensionally.
We don't have it
broadcast yet.
Or we can't, like right now, we're talking, we're listening, we're seeing each other, right? So we've got visual and auditory pretty well covered, but we don't have kinesthetic. Like I can't reach out, touch you, no matter how hard I try to reach out to my camera. I'm just touching a piece of plastic, right? I can't shake your hand or something like that.
Right.
I think that's an innovation that will be coming, and actually I know of some people working on it, of haptics and transmission of kinesthetic sense. There's also smell and taste or whatever. Like if somebody's doing a cooking show, I can't taste their food, but with 3D printing, there's probably going to be people who are going to be able to figure out how to transmit what they're cooking at some point, 100, 200 years from now, who knows, or like, Captain Kirk beaming the food over to your desk, Hey John, you want to make a cup of coffee and send it over to me here in New York? Yeah,
right.
Exactly. So.
Right. And we get that, and we're getting that. How is the best way to say it? We're getting it virtually now, in that, even 10, 15 years ago, teleconferencing was a four-figure event for a company to be able to do. It was a massive undertaking. Yeah. Now I have my phone and I go, "All right, guys, we're live," It could be anywhere. I mean, what do you think Periscope did?
Right.
It made it possible. Anybody, desktop, Apple products, Android products, tablets, it doesn't matter. If you have an internet connection, you can watch me live on.
Guys, if you could tweet this out, we just got kicked off temporarily. So if you could tweet this out, post it on your Facebook or share the last 30 seconds here. We'd appreciate it. I don't know, must have been a glitch in Blab where we got kicked out, but we're back. Again, Frank Clark with Jonathan Tripp here today, talking about technology, digital media, digital marketing, and being a broadcaster.
Right. So I know we were talking about, like Periscope, and, it really doesn't matter what, where you are, what platform you're on, we can now do it. It's not a question. It's not like, well, maybe you can do it now. And I can chat with you. I can chat with, I have people in London, in India, in Japan, in Australia. Literally all around the globe have been on my show. And it's not like, oh, look at me, as much as it's going, guys, I know it can be done because I'm doing it. I'm doing it now. This is not like maybe in 5 years or maybe in 6 months. We did it. We're doing it now. And that's how we need to use social media. That to me is how we need to use social media. The kind of the axiom that marketers ruin everything. Well, maybe it's true in some regards. It is true. I think they exploit, they push the boundaries. Yes. I don't want to say that they ruin everything.
Yeah, I mean, marketers essentially create everything because it's the entrepreneurs, the people behind here who are trying to market a new product or service that create these new technologies in the first place. Right. That created Periscope, that create Blab, that created Facebook.
Right. And so now we're using technology, we're using social media, and this is where I make a challenge to as many people that will listen. It's like, well, guys, be better at being social. I did a little bit of rebranding in the last several months, Jonathan Tripp, and it's, the tagline is, make social work for you. Because I think a lot of the times we get into these platforms and, we get into, let's just use Facebook. Let's just use Facebook because everybody loves and hates Facebook at the same time, right?
Right, exactly.
We love it because it gives us something, but Facebook does this thing, or I hate this on Facebook. Oh, but I love the fact that I get to see pictures of my great nieces, my third cousin, second. I get to see dog pictures and stuff. So we love and we hate Facebook, and the truth really is that that's somebody else's home. Facebook is Mark Zuckerberg's home, and we live there. Right. And so the question is, what conversations are we going to have while we're there? Frank, what are we going to talk about? Like here, I'll kind of joke. This is Sean's house. This is Sean. He's the VP, right? And he runs it, and he sees he's in charge of it. We're in his house. So what kind of conversations are we going to have in his house? And I think making social media work for us comes down to this concept. It's being better at having a conversation no matter where you are. So my Facebook conversation with you is going to be different than my Blab conversation with you because the medium's different.
Right. Because the medium's different because of who's on there is going to be different too.
Right.
And because of how it gets used and transmitted or reused or whatever, that's going to be different. So I agree with you. I agree with that. Jonathan, how did you get, what were you doing before you were doing digital marketing? Were you doing this all along out of high school or college, or what's your deal? What were you doing before?
All right. So for those of you that aren't LinkedIn creepers, this is my story, right? I did undergrad work for music and Bible. And it was a required double major. So if I did one, I had to do the other. That was just the function of their requirements. So I was like, well, okay, I can do it. It's a degree, right? And I didn't quite know what I was doing then, and now if I was to do it, I'd probably do it differently, but that's okay. It helps me who I am. But I have an undergrad degree in music, and what in the world am I doing, right? I don't know. Right. I got into that because it was easier than math, way easier than history.
I have an undergraduate degree in math. Full disclosure.
I don't get it. And so what's funny is that now, like, I use math all the time, everywhere. And I'm trying to convince my daughter, oh no, you need to do math. Just get through it. You'll just learn it. And once you learn it, you're going to use it for the rest of your life. And she's like, no, Dad, no. And I'm like, no, trust me. Right. Because I was a horrible student. I was really not a good student. But I picked music stuff, and I had a knack for it. You know, I mean, I'm not like super amazing talented, but I have a knack for it. Probably better than most. But that's you guys know that's not good enough to do anything, right?
Right. So were you a singer? Were you playing an instrument?
I did a little bit of both. I decided to go into trumpet as opposed to singers because, you know, singers are a dime a dozen, right? You know, anybody can sing, right? And, you know, but I didn't enjoy it quite as much. So I had an instrument. I had to pick an instrument and declare a major. So I picked trumpet. So I played the trumpet, and you know, I still have it. And that's actually what my there's trumpet players, there's not enough, right? I know, but our egos are so big that, you know, we stand apart. That's the thing with it.
One of my favorite music jokes. I forget it was like a famous conductor. He was saying, you know, somebody asked him, like, what's the most important thing about being a conductor? He says, never look encouragingly at a tuba player.
It's so true, right? I mean, and it's funny, as a brass player, you know, you have the brass ensemble. It's bigger, you know, it's bigger and louder. That's our lives. Like, I should have a tattoo of that somewhere, you know. Yeah. Right? That's
hey, that fits now. You're on Blab. You can be bigger and louder. On Blab.
Now it is bigger and louder on Blab. And well, so I ended up doing, you know, that was my undergrad work and stuff like that. But along the way, what I decided to, full disclosure, plays the clarinet. I loathed clarinet players.
My wife played the clarinet. I was a piano guy, but I didn't get very far.
Well, yeah, right, exactly. So where we were really going is that, you know, along the way in undergrad work, I ended up deciding, it's like, you know, I don't want to teach as a high school teacher, but I was like, but I'd really enjoy, you know, doing music history. So I really focused on music history, and I got accepted to ASU as a music history literature, you know, full everything. And that was really super cool because I'm coming from this no-name little tiny college and this really one of the biggest, at that point, best kept secret universities, you know, accepted me.
Is that Arizona State? What is
Arizona State? Yep. Arizona State. They accepted me in their music as the research assistant with their full, I forget what the Herberger scholarship, you know. And I was like, well, I didn't know what it was, but as soon as I got there, it was kind of like, hey, look, there's the guy who got the Herberger, you know. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I didn't know what it was because I was so, but, you know, and after a year, I ended up starting a family, and I was like, you know, I really kind of had to make a decision. It's like, do I really want to do this? And I decided, no, I need to make sure I'm providing for my family the best that I can. So I put it off. So I got a year of it done, and I never went back. So part of me was like, should I have done that? No, well, I made the right choice.
You can't second guess. You can't.
No, I'm not gonna second guess. No, but the bottom line is that, and I was halfway through, so I was 21, 22 years old, something like that. You know, 21, 22 years old, halfway through a master's degree. I was on track for like a PhD by like 26, 27. You know, and I would have been okay with that, but my goals changed. Family was more important than having a DR, you know?
Right.
And that was it. That was a pretty big turning point in my life. Just realizing that and then working that out. From there, you know, I did some nonprofit work with some different churches and things like that. And ended up moving to the East Coast. And I worked in a long story short, I ended up getting into property management as a homeowners association administrator.
Wow.
About like, right.
That's a heck of a path from musician to you know, on track for, you know, doctorate in music history to not-for-profits to real estate management. That's to digital
And
media.
then, and I stuck with that field. I got out of the administrative side of it on that end, and I ended up getting into the service end of that, and worked my way through, and was with the company for a number of years. And that was really in that aspect was really one of the transitioning points to go from, musicians kind of even academics have this kind of like head in the clouds, stereotype, even though I think sometimes it's true, but sometimes it's really not true. They're actually some of the most grounded people you've ever met. For me, the transition was then working in property management, in being a part of that. And where now I'm running an association, and then when I moved over to a service side of it, helping actually run a small business, and that was where I made the big transition to getting digital marketing in digital media as part of kind of my repertoire, as it were. So that's probably the longest explanation I've ever given, but.
Well, that's great though. That's a heck of a journey. I mean, kudos to you for going through all that. I know what it's like going, trying this and trying that. And I had a very long and winding road myself, which you don't know half of. Right.
But I think for me, one of the biggest differences was this. Well, yeah, I did all of those things. Right. And, when I was in Arizona, and I've been in Pennsylvania and in New Hampshire, and now I'm in Virginia, easy enough, right? It comes down to this. I made a decision to go from music to property management, right? In restorative services and things like that. And I made a decision not to do that anymore and to do this. And there are certain skill sets that you bring along. There are certain things that you carry with you, but there was a decision that I made. And I said, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to, let's try this. Okay. We're not even talking about the businesses that I failed. I did along the way. Right. And it's okay.
That's what happens in business. I've failed a number of businesses myself. So nothing wrong with that. So, but what you said there was so important that I want to come back and highlight, which is you made a decision that you're not going to do that anymore. You're going to try this, you're going to try that. And then later, and more recently, you made a decision that I am a broadcaster. So you made an identity level decision, which is different from, I'm going to do this, which is sort of like a behavioral level decision, right? Robert Dilts talks about the logical levels, which start out with environment, and then they go up to beliefs, values. I don't remember all the rest of them off the top of my head. I can look up the chart, but you went way up the scale from your environment to your beliefs to what your behaviors to identity level, and that kind of a decision is the kind of a decision that makes, I think, the biggest difference, because it affects all of the logical levels below that. Because when you change your identity, you change your beliefs, your values, your behaviors, and your environment. It's a result of changing your identity, and it makes all those other changes so much easier. Just like, think about like AA, for example, for somebody struggling with alcohol, and they're taught to acknowledge it and say, okay, I am an alcoholic, and that's at least they're acknowledging that they have the problem. But if they were to shift that identity to, I'm a non-drinker, I just don't drink, that could be just as powerful, maybe more powerful, because it doesn't have some of those negative connotations. Now, I don't want to mess with the system if people are in AA. I mean, and that's helping you. Please stick with it and do what you can. But always be working. My point is always be working toward creating a more empowering identity for yourself, because that will shift everything that comes below it. And behaviors such as drinking alcohol can kind of like disappear more easier if you've got a more compelling vision and a higher level identity for yourself.
We talk about that when when you discuss what's your why and things like that.
Exactly.
And I don't mean in any way to sound condescending with that, because I don't. I think the power of why, and I think when you a lot of the times when we have that really super clear, or when it's rooted so deep that when it's really hard, you find that way. You just kind of, it's the I'm going to get through this kind of thing. One of the big things when I lost my job, I'll put it that way. When I lost my job, right? It was really hard because I didn't see it coming, really. Not when it happened. I didn't see it coming. And I had so much of my identity in my work, because I had put so much into it. And it wasn't mine. It wasn't my company. I think at the time I was like, oh, like, why would they do this? Like, I do this for the, and you know what?
And I think that's everybody's reaction when you lose a job.
It was because I was involved with it, but I had the wrong expectation. And one of the things that you were talking about, the why, one of the things is that I realized, right, I'm building their dreams, not my own.
Right.
So they made the best decision for their business, and it didn't include me. So I had to come to the point of just kind of going, Johnny, are you really okay with that? Like, are you really okay with that? Or is that just something where you just you're going to say okay, but you're really not, and it's going to eat you from the inside out. Right. And so one of the things it took me a long time to do, and I really spent a lot of time doing this. They talk about like, okay, so John, what are you going to get done today? There were times where it's like, okay, John, what are you just going to get done today? I'm going to find a job, right? Action steps. And then I'm just, you do it for a couple of days and you just go, okay, well, John, what are you trying to do? Like, what's your goal, right? Well, I guess my goal is to get a job, right? That was my goal. And then it was the why. And after a little bit, it took me about a week or so, and I had to step back and I said, okay, look, I think I'm doing this backwards. Like, my gut's telling me something's going wrong. And so, here I'm trying to do from the action steps, the daily action steps. And then from there, trying to figure out a goal. And then from there, trying to figure out, a little bit more of what's your mission and your right. And I put it all on pause, and I stepped back fully, and I stopped looking, stopped applying, and I stepped back fully, and I just said, okay, John, what are you going to do? Not what's your job? Who are you? What are, and so we just talked about like doing these, your mission statement, what's your purpose? And a lot of people like that's where they were saying, oh, John, figure those things out. And what I even beyond, even bigger than that, what really caused me to step back almost full, both feet, step back. It was determining what are your values.
Exactly.
And then starting from there, what are those things that your values, then coming down and finding out what is your purpose and your mission. And I know this is not exactly what this is, but what we were originally trying to talk about, but it's so important because once I figured those things out, I was able to figure out what my roles were. And now I'm here. We talked about, why am I a broadcaster? Because one of my roles is to be a community leader. I am. I don't know how it happened. I became one somehow. Once like 3 people joined my group, I immediately became community leader. Because
you made a decision to change your identity.
There you go. You know my point. That was the whole point, is once I figured out my values and who I was and those things, and not like I'm not, guys, I'm only 38. I don't feel like I still am growing. I'm still changing, and I really hope to be that way, in my 50s, 60s, 70s, and Lord willing, if I'm going to make it. I don't know if I want to live to 90s, but anyway, that's a whole nother blab and question. The whole point really is that I'm comfortable with who I am and where I am. And I know the things that are important to me and helps me prioritize so that I can give, because I'm passionate about what I do. I love it.
Absolutely. It comes through in your show, and that's translating to viewership and growing your community.
Right. And that's really where we're going.
Right. So. And so I'll just, I'm just going to go through, because we're talking a lot about this, but the logical level. So kind of the base level, if you will, the foundation is your environment. So your environment is kind of like the bottom of the pyramid. All right. So your environment is, whether you're born with a silver spoon in your mouth, or you're born in a war-torn country, or a ghetto, or an abusive family or something like that, that's your starting level environment. Okay. Then your behavior is what you do in that environment. Okay. And that's going to be dictated to a large degree by your environment, because if you're born with a silver spoon, you're going to have different behaviors, right, than than if you're born in a war-torn country, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then based on your behaviors, you're going to learn things that, you're capable of. Like, what can you do? Like, okay, this is what I am doing, but what could I be doing? What are my capabilities? What do I have the ability to do? And then above that is kind of like, well, what do I value? Like, what's important to me? What do I believe in? What do I believe in about myself? What do I believe in about the environment, about people, about the world, about business?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And then the next level up from that is identity. Like, who am I? Who am I at my core? Who do I want to become?
Right.
And then your highest level, in a sense, is kind of like your purpose, your mission, your spirit. Like,
Okay.
What is it all about?
Right.
So that's why Simon Sinek, I think, says start with why, because when you start with your purpose, when you start with your why, with your mission, with your spirit, then once you know what that is and you get clear on that, then you can determine who you are, okay, to be aligned with that spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And you're then making the decisions going down, and the decisions at the top are more powerful because they transmit to everything else.
Right.
So when you know your purpose, then you can figure out who you are, your identity, and because of that identity, what values and beliefs do you have to maintain that identity, and then what are you now capable of with those values and beliefs, and how are you going to behave with those capabilities, and how are you going to act on your environment, through your environment, or how are you going to change your environment?
Do you know that? Well, I'm kind of like that age where everybody was like trying a whole bunch of different stuff in schools and grade schools. And I remember taking those aptitude tests, right? They say, oh, you have a strong math component, or you're a logical, analytical person, or, like whatever those things are. And I remember getting mine back. I remember taking this test and being kind of like taking the test going like, I have no idea what. I like a lot of these things are really interesting and those kinds of things, right? I took it. And I remember when we all got them back, and, they had it was a circle, and they kind of did divide it. And I forget how many sections, but, like the sciences, the maths, and, the creatives, and those,
right.
caretaker, all those different personalities. And as it gets to the middle, maybe some of these closer to the middle, they're a little bit of both. And then you had that middle section. We call it type 99.
Now, what's the type 99?
Guess what I got? Type 99 is textbook. You do whatever you want because you can do anything, which is fantastic. The worst answer I could have gotten, because as an early teenager, I was looking for somebody to tell me, John, you're good at this, and you should focus on these areas. Even if it was like half the chart, that means that the other half of the chart, I don't have to worry about. I got type 99. I got dead straight in the middle where I could do anything. I could pick. And I will, to be honest with you, that stuck with me a long time. And so,
well, by the way, that's a fantastic identity. It's like, you can do anything. That's a fantastic message to give to a young person.
It is. But it
scary,
is. It is now. But with the right mentorship, right?
Right.
But for me, it was kind of like, what does that mean? What it was actually almost worse in the moment, because I had no idea what that really meant. And as that kind of a young kid, you don't have that, and so, but it kind of stuck with me for a long time. And so growing up, right? Because apparently now I'm a grown up somehow. I don't know where that happened, but it did. It did happen.
It happens when you get married and have kids.
Right. With kids, you become a grown up. Okay. Yeah. Well, I have to remember that.
It can happen other ways, but once you have kids, you're grown up no matter what.
Right. Yeah. When you have kids, you steal your first car, or I don't want to go.
You've got kids. Guess what? You're now a grown up.
now got to act grown up. Well, then as a grown up, sitting back and just kind of looking at things, going, okay, John, we go back to those values in what we're doing, and the problem was that I was building the house from the top down, not the bottom up, by trying to figure out what the daily action steps were and trying to figure out what your goals were. But I had no idea who or what I wanted to do, or the values that I had. I didn't really solidify them. And when I did that, when I went through that process, what it allowed me to do was to actually segment out a part of things that, yes, I could. They're interesting. But I said, no, I'm not going to do those. I'm going to do these things over here. And when I started to do that, it allowed me to actually really super focus my time. And hence, all of a sudden now I find myself being a broadcaster and not a bunch of other stuff.
Right.
And that's why we're sitting here today. But I had to let go of some of those other things. Not that I can't do them. I'd love to write a book. Not going to right now.
Right.
I'd love to get a PhD. Probably not going to happen. I could do it if I wanted to. Sure. It's just not that important because these other things are. Because I'd rather have a blab with you than get my PhD tomorrow, right?
Well, thank you. But because you have made that decision, that identity level decision of I am a broadcaster, not I want to someday be a broadcaster, but right now I am a broadcaster. This is who I am. Okay.
Yeah.
All of those other decisions change. You're no longer thinking of yourself as I am, a trumpet player. What am I doing on Blab? If I'm on Blab, I should be playing the trumpet because that's not who you are. You're a broadcaster. It's like, yeah, you still play the trumpet. You can still play for your kids. You can still play and, try and pursue that separately, but it's not the most important thing because the way that you stacked your priorities, starting from your purpose and then your identity, filters down from that identity level decision of I am a broadcaster.
Right. Yeah. And one of the other major things is that I learned about myself is I value relationships over possessions. Not everybody does.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah. And that's not a value statement in the negative. That's a realization for me. I much rather value the relationship that I get out of an experience, of a time spent, whether it's money and things like that, rather than, Frank, how much are you going to pay me for showing up today on your show?
Right.
What's my speaker fee?
I think I got like 50 cents sitting over here.
Yeah. No, you got my invoice. Don't worry. It's in your box. My people already emailed your people.
Okay, great.
But yes, anyway, you get my feeling.
Right. But yeah, and you get it because you're also, okay, so we're doing Startup Con Live together and you're very much in a sense a startup yourself. You've just started here on Blab, 6 months ago or something like that?
That's not like that. It's ridiculous. Right. That's the answer.
So, and then you've just really started creating the identity level for Blab Nation, which you're now actually in transition on. So you're making an identity level decision for your community in a sense of who is this group? What are we? Who am I as the leader of this community? And what does that mean? And how do we brand that? And then where do we go with that? So when you're making these identity level decisions of where do I want to go with my community, it'll filter down to okay, how will we make this sustainable so that we can continue to create and provide value for all these people? And ultimately out of that will come, okay, we're going to have a business model that's going to make this sustainable so that people can pay me to do this so that I can do it more and add more value for more people. I think that's how it comes. Even Facebook started out with no business model. They just, if you saw the movie even or read anything about it, it was just this is cool. Let's not try and monetize it until we figure out what the heck it is that we've got. Now, there's a point where people have to, I'll say poop or get off the pot and do something with it. But you've got a long runway to make that happen. But at some point, you've got to figure out, okay, am I doing what I'm doing because it's an enjoyable hobby, or this is my vocation? This is how I'm going to support my family. This is how I'm going to deliver my unique message to the world, how I'm going to help change and improve the world. And
you got it exactly, because to me, what that does, you have to realize actually fundamentally what that is. And what that is that your values and your purpose outweigh, in terms of initial aspects, outweigh how much money can I get from all 10 people that are watching us live, right? How much money can I get from every single person that sends me a tweet, right? It's nothing. It is so backwards. It's so backwards. And that's what, going back, why is it being a broadcaster now? And I decided to put that label on. Why being a broadcaster to me is more important than being a marketer, because I think a marketer thinks, okay, what's the ROI on my time? That when you guys know, I've had that discussion many times when we're talking about Snapchat and things. So what's the ROI for Snapchat? Irrelevant question.
Right, because you're still
It's not
experimenting with it, playing it, and trying to understand and figure out.
Because it's all about the relationship. It's not about how much money I'm going to get out of it. Look, the money's going to come. And that doesn't mean that you don't have a plan in place. But the whole point really is, see, marketers are looking at it from the, how am I going to be able to make this work to get money? A broadcaster, I actually look at it and go, how am I going to make this work so I can reach more people? Totally different aspect. Now, it doesn't mean that I'm not looking to make some money. Guys, I got to eat.
Right.
I have, my baby just had her third birthday, like I think about these things. How am I need to be able to make money.
Right. Exactly.
So it's not an evil.
Yeah. So there's nothing wrong with being a marketer, by the way. I'm seeing some, I hate marketers. I despise being marketed to.
Yeah.
But
it's funny.
Let me ask
Tom
you a
follows
question,
me on Snapchat,
Tom and Grammy. Have you ever bought anything? Have you ever bought a cell phone, a computer, a car, a house? I mean, if you bought something in your life, Grammy's saying she's never bought.
She's never bought anything. No.
Bought a phone, never bought food. Okay. Somewhere you're buying the food that you eat or the house that you live in because of a marketer. Okay. And I understand that some people overdo it with marketing, but we need marketers, we need salespeople, and there's a way to do it properly to develop and cultivate a great relationship. That doesn't mean you hate the entire field. It's like saying I hate plumbers. I can't stand plumbers. Oh, well, do you want a working toilet? Well, yeah, I kind of do want a working toilet. Well, I guess you kind of need plumbers, right? You don't throw out people say I hate politicians or I hate lawyers. It's like, you know what? You hate lawyers until you get hit by a car and you need a lawyer. All of a sudden, lawyer's your best friend. You hate politicians until the politician passes a law that helps your business or something like that. So let's not be haters. Let's figure out how to do things better, create more value, and find the people doing those professions that we can fall in love with. You might hate marketers, but you might love somebody who's one of the best marketers, right?
Right. And like I said, so I'm watching some of the chat and some of the conversations going back and forth, and we bring up the, like, I hate marketers. You know what you actually do? You hate bad marketers. In the same way that you hate lawyers, you hate bad lawyers. I hate broadcasters. I hate bad broadcasters.
Yeah, exactly.
I hate broadcasters that they literally talk for an hour and their guest is sitting there just like this. Yep. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. I wouldn't watch the show.
Yeah.
You'll spend I'd give them a good 60 seconds, a good hard try on the, then I wouldn't watch your show again.
Yeah. And I think that's why people fall in love with you, because you are a good listener. That's why you have consistent following. I mean, I work hard myself, and I think I do talk too much, and I'm working to be a better listener all the time. But I think I get excited and I start talking about stuff. I feel like I've got a lot to share, and I feel like sometimes maybe I shortchange my guests a little bit. So if I'm doing that, I apologize. It's just because I get excited about the subject or the guest or the topic. You're gonna
find with your blabs that you're gonna have a specific pace, a specific style of questions. Like Entrepreneurs on Fire, for example. How many ask the same 3 or 4 questions every time, and some people hate that. They're like, it's the same podcast again and again. It's just filling a different voice. Right. They hate that. Other people are like, no, this is so awesome. Look, I get the same questions, but I'm going to get so many different people's different perspectives on it. And so, Frank, your show is going to be different than mine, partly because you're different, but because, I could do 3 different shows. Honestly, I could probably do 3 different shows in a day. 3 very different shows. Not the same style, but it'd still be me.
Yeah, I've thought about that a lot as I'm building out my own platform here on Blab. Is like, who do I want to be in this community, and what do I want to be talking about? And there's so many things that I am passionate about. I could certainly do something. I could do a whole show series on, health and nutrition and fitness and outdoor lifestyle and so forth, right? And that could be a whole lifestyle.
The devaluing, yeah, you could do. And here's a title suggestion, okay? The devaluing of life coaches. That'd be a great. That'd be a
Matt
great
Sherman
topic.
on as our first guest.
Yeah, it would erupt with. And I say that partly because Jenny's in the room, Coach Jenny's in the room, and she missed our morning show.
Yes.
But
Matt hating on the life coaches.
He was hating on the life coaches, right? Or I would say he's hating on his experience with a life coach,
right? Or what he sees being done by people marketing themselves as life coaches.
Exactly right. That's the whole point, right? He's hating, just like how kind of we were. Like, we hate lawyers. No, we actually hate bad lawyers.
Right.
I hate marketers. I hate really bad marketers. Salespeople, they're all slimy. No, the bad ones are. Yeah. The good ones present so much value that you can't help but you're like, oh, look, I know a guy, and you're talking about that salesperson. Like, there are people. I think this age has kind of gone by a little bit. Look, I need a car. There's only one guy I'm going to think about. That's my car salesman, right? Now, I mean, those days are a little bit gone, but there was a point in time where that, because the relationship was there,
right?
And then the used car salesman, and Jenny, the air quotes are for you. The used car salesman came in. Now we hate car salesmen altogether. But that's not the truth. We hate the bad ones.
Exactly.
And that's good. Hate the bad ones.
Who's truly looking out for you and your family and say, look, I know you were looking at this sports car, but you've got 2 young children. I'm concerned that it's not going to be the safest for them, even with, the safety features that the modern cars have. This Corvette is not going to be as good for you as a Subaru or a Volvo. Why don't you wait till your kids are 10 years older and then maybe come back to me and talk about a sports car? But for right now, honestly, looking at you with these 2 beautiful little kids, let's get you into something with a higher safety rating. Now, that guy just became your best friend, right? Because he's thinking about you and your real needs and where you are in your life stage. And you may want that sports car more than anything, but he's talking you into common sense that, you know what? He's right. I need to consider my family. And I've just developed maybe a lifelong relationship with that used car salesman, right? That's totally different than, oh, you got to buy this thing because I'm going to get my highest commission on this. And it's the ugliest car we got on the lot. And my boss is going to pay me $1,000 extra for getting rid of this lemon here. And that attitude comes through. They may never say that, but you're going to feel it. And it's going to feel like icky marketing, like Sandra talks about, right?
Right. Yeah. She was just, that was the Blab I was on. That was a show I was just kind of listening to. She talked about it. She's like, ew, it's icky marketing. Like, I hate that. Ooh. Right. And I do too. And, we make fun of it. I pull it out. Like, we're always pulling out the buy now button for 5 minutes only. Buy it now.
Right. And we hate that. Like, I get it on Twitter. It's like I follow somebody on Twitter and then 3 seconds later I get an autoresponder that says, hey, buy my new coaching program. Really? It's like, click unfollow.
Right. And I think the real value comes into this, right? And this is the kind of completion of the circle, as it were, right? Where the value is in the relationship. And in order for me to be a better marketer, I need to be a better broadcaster. And so I'm spending a lot of my time being a better broadcaster, being a better leader, to be a better community leader. And I think this is the bet. Okay. This is the bet that I'm hedging everything on. That's going to make me better at anything else that I do. Absolutely. And so that I'm going to be able to provide a good living because I'm providing amazing value.
Exactly. Amazon, everybody knows Amazon.com, but I remember reading an article about Amazon back when it wasn't clear whether they were going to make it or not, back in the 90s when they were first founded. And it was in Forbes or Fortune or Inc. or one of those magazines. And they were doing an interview with the founder, Jeff Bezos, and they were interviewing him why he thought he was going to succeed when Barnes & Noble and companies like that were already established and he didn't even have a store. What made him think he was going to succeed in the face of all of these internet things? And I remember reading that interview and saying, you know what, this guy's gets it. I bet they are going to succeed, because all he talked about was how passionate he was about customer service and doing the best possible job and understanding their customers and delivering value to their customers and get the best pricing for their customers and making sure their customers had, the best refund policy. And it was all about customer. It was the only, real consideration that they had, was being completely and totally passionate about giving the best value to their customer. And I don't care what business you're in, but if that's your focus, if you're, whether you're selling, used cars or, timeshares, Melanie Lane, who used to sell timeshares, she's all about the customer and she's all about building the relationship and delivering value. and she does the same show every day, but it's all about embracing and delivering and serving the person, the human being there in front of you. And she was very, very successful in selling timeshares, which is a lot of people have a stereotype that, timeshare salespeople are icky or worse than used car salespeople or whatever. But she talks about how she would start out with people who were incredibly skeptical and then learn more about them and get to know them and what their needs were and who they were as people. And by the end of her presentation, where they came in saying, I'm never going to buy a timeshare, so this is a waste of time for both of us, they'd be buying a timeshare and hugging her for it, thanking her for it.
Right. And this that comes back to the transparency, back to the, back to these issues. These really honestly, I look at them, they're core competencies for being a professional. And, a professional is not always somebody that comes in with a suit and tie or like a pantsuit set, right?
Right.
That's not a professional. Because, and this is why a lot of people really have a major problem with email marketing, because people, the bad ones, I'm just going to use those in the worst general sense, the bad people ruin it, but it's really not ruined. All it is, to me, when you do it well, you set yourself apart in the most amazing way from those that don't. And people, I'm just going to use email marketing, right? Email marketing, when you do it well, people are waiting for your email. And I mean that very, very, very honestly. They're waiting for your email. They want to know that next thing that you're doing. Not like, oh my gosh, please, I hope my spam filter filters this. Because, they don't even want to open your email because they just feel that, even unsubscribing to the email list isn't really going to, and they isn't going to really do anything. They just hate it, right? But when you develop a good relationship, even your email marketing stuff, it comes across as so genuine, so personal, or so honest that people are that the consumer, the client, or whoever is going, okay, that's good. I'll listen to your blab, John. I'll come on your show. That's what they do, and that's why I think it's super important. And it really doesn't matter if you're using Blab or Snapchat or Twitter or Instagram. It doesn't matter because the integrity's there, because the relationship's there. As soon as we get that, you're golden.
Exactly. And again, that's true across businesses. It doesn't matter whether you're a plumber or a banker or a real estate agent, a used car salesman or whatever. At the end of the day, business is built on relationships. Now, will you buy something one time and try it and to try and disprove me and say, oh, no, I bought something or whatever, even though it was from a guy that I hated? Will you do that repeatedly? Well, maybe if there's a convenience factor. I mean, you might go to Dunkin' Donuts over Starbucks because it's on your block versus driving 5 minutes away. So there are other factors. But if there's a guy at Starbucks who plays with your kids when you come in, are you going to go out of your way to drive the extra 5 minutes because your kids want to see that guy? Absolutely, because he's building a relationship with you, with your family, right? So relationships drive every business, and relationships are built on trust, trust and liking and getting to know you.
So what you're saying, let's just be really clear, and you know what's coming, Frank, right? So what you're saying is that business in the real world is reflective of business on social media. You mean you can't be one thing in your in real life and be another thing on your social media, and you mean it's not going to work? And you and I both know, exactly. We've had conversations about this, guys, where if you're a jerk in real life, you're probably going to be a jerk on social media, and if you're not, you're going to get found out.
Yeah.
And good. I'm so glad to hear that that's going to happen. I'm tired of jerks.
And I like to say, too, it's like with money. I mean, money is not going to make you happy or make you a better person. Money is going to be an accelerator. It's going to make you more of who you already are. All right. So you could have all the money in the world. Okay. So let's take somebody that everybody likes because they're rich. Okay. Let's pick somebody random, like, I don't know, Donald Trump, let's say. He's rich, so he's clearly happy, and everybody loves him, right?
Everybody.
It doesn't work.
Everybody loves some.
Paris Hilton, another great example. Everybody likes.
That's
Paris
a really good one.
Okay, she's rich, so she's got to be happy, right? Let's take a look at somebody who made it rich, and once they became rich, all their problems went away, and they were happy, like John Belushi or Robin Williams, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. I think you really hit it right on the head. And this is just like, oh, everyone loves Morgan Freeman,
Everyone
right?
does like Morgan Freeman. That's true.
And
Everybody would have still liked Morgan Freeman, I think, if he wasn't famous, because of who he is. Who he is more important than how much money he has. Money is irrelevant. Money is an accelerator and will make you more of who you are. So if you're a jerk already and you get rich, you're going to be a rich jerk, right? And believe me, I've met plenty of those in business. Trust me, there's a lot of rich jerks out there. If you're poor but lovable, and suddenly you win the lottery, you're still going to be lovable, and people are still going to love you, right? Who you are has nothing to do with how much money you have or don't have. Okay, so work on your identity level to be great at relationships. Work to be more loving. Work to be more kind. Okay.
Well, let me put this into the perspectives. We talked about, determine your values and things like that, not the actual practical steps of doing it, but the importance of doing it. And here's the reason why it was important for me to do it, because there are some people that I knew, I liked them. They're fun. They're, good conversation, things like that. Right. They valued money. Not that I don't, but they valued it higher on their scale, on their order of that than I did. And what that did, once I realized that, it put me personally in a different area than they. We talked about blue ocean strategy earlier today, right? But they valued money as a possession, as a status tool. And what ended up happening is that it really created a divide, because where they would do whatever it took to get money. Now, we're not talking what the money gets them. They wanted the money because they wanted to see six figures in their bank. I could care less. Right. I really could care less about it. You know what I want? I want to make sure that my daughter, that she got a truck, that, the little push trucks with the momentum in it, so you can push it and it just keeps going. That's important to me, not 50 grand in the bank. Right. Yeah. It's different values.
Right. So you want to have, you want to be able to provide for your family, and everything like that is great. Everything above and beyond that is gravy, as we were saying, right? So,
right. But you bring up the really.
I'll let you in a minute, but I want to close out this conversation with Jonathan first.
Yeah, but he brings up a really good point. Money is a scorecard, but some people don't view it that way. In my personally, one of the values that I came up with is that once you start treating people as a commodity, you lose their humanity.
Right. Exactly.
That was a really big turning point, because I never really thought of it that way. Employees, they're a commodity. They're an asset within the company, right? No, they're people, and we need to treat them as such. No, what the actions that they do, treat those as the asset. That's different than treating the person, meaning they can pick up that sack of flour and move it to this location. That's an asset. That's a thing. That's not who they are. I'm not a flour sack picker-upper. That's not my job. That's not identify who I am, right?
Right. So,
the values.
So this has been a fantastic conversation, and I want to continue it, but we both have to get going here, so I am going to have to close this out.
Okay.
I want to give people an opportunity to join you. So if you could post the link for Blab Nation. Do you have that handy for the Facebook group?
I do somewhat. I do it in like 3, 2, 1 here. Here's okay. That is the link for Blab Nation. If you're not already a part of it, guys, join us. I do a daily show Monday through Friday. We talk about things around business, social media marketing. Generally speaking, I think that they're fun conversations, but they're very good conversations, hopefully. I'm trying to be a better host at that kind of stuff, but they're conversations worth having. Tomorrow we're actually going to be talking about, being a better host on a show, being a better guest, or, I still haven't even come up with a title yet, Frank. Oh my goodness. But it might even be, why should you listen to a 3-hour blab? Right.
Right.
So,
and we've all been a part of those, right?
Right. We all have. Yes.
Well, speaking of a 3-hour blab, I'll give a quick plug for Startup Con Live. Jonathan and I will be doing that in 2 weeks here on Blab, March 14th to the 16th. So I'm going to put the website in, and we're doing the production work on that now. In fact, we've got a meeting in 10 minutes. that I unfortunately will not be able to join because I've got a Blab starting in 10 minutes.
That's right. You've got your
I've got Keenan coming on here with me.
All right.
So I also wanted to say, everybody, if you're not already following Jonathan, please follow Jonathan at Jonathan Tripp here on Blab and on Twitter. So at Jonathan Tripp, quick follow here on Twitter, and make sure that you're checking out his shows, because he does a really amazing job with just being a fantastic listener, developing relationships with his guests and with his audience and with his community, and just putting it out there and delivering a ton of value out here on Blab. So I appreciate you very much, Jonathan, and what you're doing for the community. I appreciate what you're doing in terms of teaching, encouraging, me to use Snapchat, encouraging others to use Snapchat, Instagram. I'm getting hooked. I sent you a couple snaps this weekend.
I saw. It was great. And that's the hang of it. Doing it. I love it. So, but and Frank, I with that, I will just kind of briefly say, Frank, I really appreciate you carving a time out, dedicating a time to doing this, and having a different level of conversation. It's not just, coffee talk. It's not just, it's not an interview. It's not a webinar, but you're having real good conversations, offering out really amazing value. And you're doing it so much more consistently now, because I know it was a decision on your part. And so I want to say thank you for that. And thanks for having me on your show today. So.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I'm going to stop the recording here. And again, I'm Frank Clark with Perfectly Frank Conversations. I'm here today with Jonathan Tripp. And thank you all for watching here live and on the replay. And we will be starting up at 2:30 with Jim Keenan here today, 2:30 Eastern Standard Time in 10 minutes. So thanks for joining, and I hope you'll join me in 10 minutes. Bye-bye.